people saying, la, 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 la.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Monday, August 9th, after the LA Galaxy's 1-1 draw with the Vancouver Whitecaps. We're going to talk about that game. A little disappointing, I know. We'll talk about some of the positives, some of the negatives in there, and what it's going to be like in this next couple of weeks to talk about this Galaxy schedule that's upcoming. A bunch of things. Attendance issues, we want to talk about that a little bit. New signing that we didn't get a chance to talk about on Thursday as well, so we'll cover that. Sort of lead you through this week. This is one of those weeks where you get a little breath before it gets really crazy, and so hopefully we can be a little breath of fresh air for you to help me out tonight. He's not Kevin Baxter, because Kevin apparently, as we've heard, is on his way back from Tokyo. So back to fill in for Mr. Kevin Baxter once again. It's Larry Morgan, not on Twitter. Larry, how's it going, buddy?
Good, Josh. Reporter for duty. Thanks for having me on, sir.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. We appreciate you filling in for the Panda there. I'm sure he's going to be nice and ornery whenever he gets back after having all the time changes and all those fun things that he's going through.
I think he's going to be a bit sleep deprived too, if you ask me.
I mean, I'm sleep deprived just texting him, so I can understand how that goes. Yeah, I mean, a real big swing for him. So he was actually emailing us after the game. I think he was either putting some final touches on some things or wrote a story from Tokyo that actually covered the Galaxy. He was working on something.
Yeah, he was working on his column. He emailed me his column. He likes to have me look at it because I guess his desk just doesn't like to read about soccer. So he asked me to do it, and I'm more than happy to do it. So he was emailing me, and he left a couple of blanks for the Galaxy and LAFC matches. So. But good. I read the rest of it, yeah.
That's good. Well, a little housekeeping before we get too far away is on Thursday night, Larry, Sophie and I were talking about the transfer window deadline. We told you the LA Galaxy were still looking to acquire one more person. We told you earlier in that evening it actually seemed like perhaps they wouldn't be able to get it done in time. And having said all that, eventually, as the show drew to a close, we told you that we were expecting something to happen on Friday morning, and you did get the announcement that we were expecting. Again, not huge news, but the LA Galaxy did acquire defender Niko Hämäläinen on loan from Queens Park Rangers. There's lots of umlauts in there, in that Hämäläinen, but you shouldn't be afraid of it. I actually think that's one of the easier ones to pronounce.
I wonder how many people were actually hoping that this mysterious signing was going to be a certain player from Barcelona who was a free agent. I seriously wonder how many people were actually hoping and praying that Mr. Messi was going to come to Los Angeles. I mean, come on, let's be realistic.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It was all fun. Well, Aaron already dropped a $5 super chat in there. I like this one. This is a good one to kick this particular show off. He says, Galaxy fans are the best fans. They can find anything to complain about. Josh and Larry, what is your favorite thing Galaxy fans complain about? Well, Larry, do you have a favorite thing Galaxy fans complain about? I'm trying to think of right now they complain about
maybe it's $20 to park there.
That is a lot of money. I was going to say you and I shouldn't complain though, because we don't pay for parking. So whenever we go, but yes, that $20 is an extreme amount of money to park.
It is.
I would think that Galaxy fans complaining about Kevin Cabral right now is one of my favorite things, because I see people complaining he can't score goals, and then he scores a goal and it's like, well, that was easy. It's like you can't have it both ways, and we can talk a lot about Kevin Cabral. I'm trying to think. There used to be lots of fun things that Galaxy fans complained about. I mean,
you certainly can't complain about the sight lines, about the atmosphere there. I mean, I don't know. I personally, I think it's a wonderful place to watch a match. It really is. I
agree with you 100%.
I just can't think of what they complain about, other than they always ask for perfection from this team, and as we were saying before the show, this league is not set up that way. I mean, this isn't a league of haves and have-nots. I mean, anybody can beat everybody else on any given day. And unless you're extremely lucky, I'm sorry, you're not going to win every match. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of things. It was funny because people are saying, everyone was complaining about the pizza and Dignity Health Sports Park. Hey, if you want to complain about the food in there, I'm probably on your side on that one as well.
Stick with the pretzel.
Yeah, Larry likes the pretzels. I like the cookies. I understand the cookies are overpriced. I get
Did you
it.
ever finish that bucket of cookies, Josh?
I finished a lot of them. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I did.
Okay.
But yeah, for me, that's fine. I'm trying to think of some of the other things that scheduling. Scheduling's a big thing that people like to complain about too. And I
think every game should start no later than 11 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to say if you're asking Larry for any of this, his answer is always going to be early starts. Let's kick this thing off early because I think most reporters, one, you don't want to be writing up against deadline, which is why everybody says early, and two, it gets it's nice in the middle of the day. You get up, you go to the stadium, you do your work, you come home, you still get to have dinner with the significant other. So all of those things work out a little bit better. But I kind of I do like Saturday night 7:30 p.m. starts. Those are usually my favorites.
I like 6 o'clock starts on Saturdays.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. All right. Let's get to the LA Galaxy now. They signed Niko, which is going to be good because we're going to talk about Jorge Villafaña going down in this game with an hyperextended knee. Larry, what did you and I were talking whenever he went down?
I was just going to say about Niko is, well, first of all, as far as I know, he was not named after the former singer of the Velvet Underground, which goes way, way back. But as far as Jorge, when we saw him walk off the field, he looked okay, wasn't limping, wasn't grimacing, but when they said a hyperextended knee, that automatically means it's a finicky injury. You don't know how serious it is until they look at it, give an MRI. So my guess is he's going to be out at least 2 matches. I could be wrong. It could be just a little, tweak or in there, but I have a feeling it's a little bit more serious than that. And that's too bad.
Yeah.
Because he was really solid.
Well,
he really was.
I'll say this. One, we haven't had any official announcement on how long he will be out, so everybody calm down with that. And I was telling Larry, I've hyperextended my knee a couple times. One time, I was okay the next day, and it wasn't really a problem, and it hurt a lot at the beginning, and it was a little sore for a little while. But, after a week of sort of just being nice and easy on it, I was back to normal 100%. I also am not a professional athlete. I don't know if people could tell that about me. Sometimes I get confused for one. It happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can see that, sure.
Yeah, of course. And then the other part of that is that I've also done it where I've basically been out a month. So we will see what sort of happens there. You have Acosta came in for him. I thought Acosta did okay.
He was all right, yeah.
He hasn't played a whole bunch, so I wasn't really expecting a whole bunch. But then, so you have Niko as well there now, and it was a good sort of signing to be in there. Greg Vanney was saying, we can't constantly rely on, Jorge Villafaña to play every minute of every game, Larry. That's a huge thing. You cannot rely on all of these guys to play every minute of every game. You need backups. You need to be able to give guys rest whenever it comes, because I think as we're going to see in this game especially, that second half was a compilation of things, and we're going to talk about hopefully all of them. But one of them is that they were tired at the end of a 3-game week. That second half they didn't have the energy. I thought it was especially noticeable in Julian Araujo, who was dynamic in the first half, didn't have a lot of gas in the second half, and you could sort of see whenever Julian gets tired, he starts grabbing and he starts not getting in front of balls and things like that, and you could see he was gassed. Yeah,
he starts getting a little feisty, which is one of his old habits that he appeared to have broken. But as you said, when the endurance started to run out, he got a little bit, I wouldn't say chippy, but certainly a little bit more physical than he had been.
Yeah, you can.
But he still played well. There's no doubt about that. He still played well.
Yeah, I think he was fine. Let's get to the game against Vancouver. Your starting lineup, not much changed here, except that you do get Jonathan Dos Santos back in the starting lineup, Sebastian Lletget in the starting lineup. So Kevin Cabral was up top as your central striker. You had Grandsir on the left, Alvarez on the right. Grandsir would eventually slide over to the right-hand side as well in the second half, so he would slide over whenever they made some subs. Lletget was in there. Dos Santos was in there. I keep wanting to say, Revolution, but it's not. Ryan
double R's, easy way out.
It's going to be a long rest of the season for me to figure out Raveloson. So Raveloson there in the center, Villafaña on the left side, Williams, Koulibaly, and Araujo in there, and Jonathan Bond in the back. So I think a pretty standard, straightforward lineup. I think the only thing that changes whenever Chicharito comes back or whenever Dejan Joveljic, and everybody was waiting, Larry, with sort of bated breath about to find out whether or not, Joveljic would be available. And on Saturday night, I had been reaching out to people and it didn't look good. And we didn't expect anything to change on Sunday. So he is, as far as I know, this is Monday. I don't have an update on him right now, but I would imagine that he will be available this weekend. They seem to be pretty high on him possibly even playing Sunday. So I would imagine that with 5-6 days in the week, in a business week, they will be able to get Dejan Joveljic in and ready for that game in Minnesota. And if they go to a starting lineup with Joveljic, the only thing that really changes here is that I think Alvarez probably goes to the bench, even though he's been some of the better players in the last 2 games. I would expect that Alvarez goes to the bench for a little bit. Cabral drops back into a winger position. Grandsir comes on the right side. Cabral goes to the left side. And then you have Joveljic either up top or Chicharito, if he's healthy, up top, sort of starting that. And Greg Vanney has like 13 different options that he can do as well, Larry, that all fit into other things. So you could start Alvarez. You could sit Cabral. You could do a lot of things differently once you get everybody back. And I think that's going to be our biggest sort of guess whenever this happens, Larry, is when everybody gets healthy. How are we going to sort of predict what the starting lineup is going to be? Because Greg Vanney said it recently. He said, we're going to have starters coming off the bench here.
And speaking of Alvarez, going back a little bit, we were talking about him in the press box during the match, and certainly I think there was an argument for him being the man of the match in that tie yesterday. He's not particularly fast, but he has very quick feet if you watch him. And he's a good passer of the ball. But yeah, I think he would go to the bench. With the infusion of the new talent, I think he would. And but he may be one of those guys you call the instant offense off the bench.
Yeah, and by the way, that's not to say that I think he's playing worse than Cabral. I just think that how Vanney wants to line up and what's in his mind right now and what he wants to see first is going to be somebody like Alvarez coming off the bench. But make no mistake about it, there's going to be players who were quote-unquote starters that are going to the bench whenever he gets everybody healthy. We know that. I mean, Joveljic might not have a starting spot whenever Chicharito comes back, or they're going to play 2 forwards up top. So there's a lot of different things to sort of look at as this Galaxy team gets healthy. Just sort of keep in mind that there's going to be some shift around, and Vanney's going to have a lot of options, and he was very excited about those options, Larry, whenever we talked to him on Friday, right? He was talking about how there's so many things he can do. I mean, I call him almost giddy, right? He wasn't sitting there smiling, like jumping, but he got excited in the way that he was explaining what he would be able to do and what he's looking for the second half of this season. So, seeing a starting lineup that is basically down 1 starter is pretty interesting. Whenever you look at this. So I really sort of like how Vanney may set this up, and I think he has a ton of options going forward. But in this game, we look at the start of the first half, Larry, and the LA Galaxy came pretty much firing out of the gate. Greg Vanney was a little, he was at least inquisitive to the point where he said the first 15 or 20 minutes, maybe they didn't have great possession, only possession for possession's sake, but he liked the energy that came out.
I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but I wanted to go back to an issue which I think might be interesting to keep an eye on with all these options that you just brought up with and having to bring starters off the bench. You have to wonder how this so-called great vibe in the locker room is going to be affected. Jonathan Bond has been talking all season about this being one of the best locker rooms and changing rooms he's ever been in. But you're going to have some bruised egos out there.
Yes.
You look at a guy like Dan Steres, who looks like he's lost his starting job. Maybe Efrain Alvarez go to the bench. Maybe Leggett might go to the bench. And I just wonder how this is going to affect the locker room.
Yeah.
Which to this point has been, by all accounts, very, very good. So it's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on that.
I mean, if Greg Vanney, and he seemed to have been able to do it in Toronto, if Greg Vanney can get everybody pulling on the same end of the rope, then it kind of doesn't matter if you're on the bench, right? And we know there's going to be veterans on the bench, like Victor Vasquez, like Sasha Kleshton, that are going to be on the bench saying, you guys better be ready to go in and make an impact whenever you come in. We're going to do that. You better be able to do that too. So I think there's a lot of, lead by example on a whole bunch of things that can happen. John in the chat room says, a condensed schedule with Greg Vanney will ensure everyone who deserved playing time will get it with the 5 subs, and the 5 subs are really important. One, that's never going away. I know people keep thinking that's going away. That's never going away for me. And I'm just telling you, it's the players union likes it because that more players get time. There's a whole bunch of things that you can sort of look at and say, you can make an argument why it makes things better. Even the pace of play, even down the stretch, even the different things that you're able to do. 5 subs is staying, and I think Greg Vanney is a coach where you love that he has 5 subs. I'm sure with 3 subs, and he showed it, he can make a difference. But with 5 subs and starters coming off the bench, you can really affect change in a game. And maybe that's converse, Larry, to what he was saying earlier on whenever they were thin and they were going through that stretch of games, basically the 3-game road trip, which was you can't rely on the young guys to save the game in the second half. You have to win it in the first half. And I think he's going to have game changers that come off the bench in the second half to not have to put the young players in a position to try to win something.
Yeah, it's just going to be very, very interesting to see what transpires. Again, I just go to the so-called camaraderie that's been built up this season, just how it's going to be affected with the personnel now. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. And going back to what you were saying about the first half of the Vancouver match, it just seemed to me the Galaxy was unlucky. Derrick Williams said after the match that if we had scored another goal, it's going to be game over.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but certainly the Galaxy would have been in command. And I said all along, you don't like to keep a team like Vancouver, which certainly lacks talent. You don't like to keep a team like that hanging around. And the Galaxy paid the penalty. Came out lackluster right at the start of after halftime. And as Williams said, we got punished.
Yeah, and they deserve to get punished. I mean, up to a certain point.
Yes.
I will also say that, Derrick said that he didn't feel like they gave him a lot of chances. The one real big chance sort of came off of the set piece and that they need to do better. I was asking in our Discord, and if you haven't joined our Discord, you should. There's like 800 of us in there now, I think.
Is anybody asking for me in there?
No, not one person. No.
Thank you very much.
I mean, you are in there. If you go in there, you have a screen name and everything, so you can go in. But I don't think everybody is like, "Oh, where's Larry?" No, nobody ever says that. I want to be real with you. All right, we're playing like brothers here, Larry. We're like brothers.
I'm not loved.
There's no ego. There's no ego in the COG changing room. All right. I just want to make sure that that you understand that we're just all doing this for the betterment of the podcast. No, so you go into, this lineup, and I was asking the Discord, I was saying, okay, so who had a bad game? Tell me the people who had the bad games in this, because I will tell you...
Sega was a little bit wobbly.
He was shaky, but I wouldn't consider him... I don't consider he had a bad game.
No.
Somebody pointed out Jonathan Bond. I will say that I thought Bond coming out to try to get that ball on the set piece, I thought he was never getting there. Now...
Right, he was slightly out of position, right.
But at the same time, Larry, I've also, if you look at that shot and the header... You have to sit there and say, okay, so if he stays home, does he have a better chance at that? No, I don't think he does. Right. I think that's still a goal. So It's one of those, it's like, did he know it was in that danger of a situation? The bottom line is, if you're a goalkeeper and you come off your line, you need to get to that ball. You cannot not get to that ball. And he didn't get to the ball. He was behind their number 4 who ended up scoring. And
don't try to pronounce his name because it's impossible.
I'm sure it's not impossible. It was one of those. I saw it and it was a long one. But he did that. But Koulibaly also could have been a little tighter on the mark on that as well. So I mean, there are things that you can sit there and say. But I'm going to tell you right now, out of the starting 11, nobody had a bad game. There were just not some great games, and I think that goes for the entire LA Galaxy lineup all the way through into the second half. The first half was energetic. It was quick passing. It was guys looking to break things open. It was creative. It wasn't predictable. It was all the things that you want to see. I think Derrick Williams said, the first half is the way we like to play. That's the way and everybody saw that. First half is the way they like to play. Grant Sear missed a good shot. It wasn't an easy shot, but he missed a good shot. Cabral missed another one. We ended up putting the second one in. If he's hitting 50% of his shots, the LA Galaxy will be doing just fine. I'm not worried about him. But there's little things in there that they miss some chances. And because they missed their chances, because they weren't ruthless in that, they allowed a team who didn't play midweek to hang around, right? So Vancouver came in there not having played midweek, didn't have that extra game. Yes, they traveled, they came in, so that evened the playing field. And so what did you end up getting? You got a 1-1 draw. Galaxy end 1-1-1 against Vancouver. I will tell you right now, I understand that Vancouver is the last place team in the Western Conference. Larry, I understand that 9 times out of 10, the LA Galaxy should beat Vancouver, and absolutely it was drop points at home. There was no excuse for losing that game. You need to be able to grind that out and get the 3 points. All that being said, I think Vancouver has the Galaxy's number. I'm not overly concerned about what I saw against Vancouver in any of the 3 games that tells the Galaxy have played 2 bad games this year. Both of them were against Vancouver. All right.
As in any sport, there are teams that have trouble with certain teams. I don't care what sport, what league it is, and apparently Vancouver is the Galaxy's nemesis. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, it feels that way. It feels
it does.
It feels like there is something that is keeping the LA Galaxy from being good against Vancouver. And I'll say this. I think people like to say, oh, well, they played down to their level of competition. I hate that. I don't think that that's... One is that in Major League Soccer, Larry, the difference between first place in the Western Conference and last place in the Western Conference is like 2%. Right? It's like 2% more effort. It's 2% little things. Yep. And you can have that on some nights and you can not have that on some nights. The Galaxy didn't have that extra 2% on Sunday night. And because of that, Vancouver was able to keep it close, and they stole a goal, and they did what they were supposed to do. You look at expected goals, they're even. So you can't even tell me that, the Galaxy should have scored a whole bunch more goals. They should have probably had a half more goal, right? 1/2 of a chance, a little bit better. Grant Sear buries his, Cabral buries his first one. Those types of things can sort of put the LA Galaxy ahead, and then those are the difference makers in that.
Do you agree with Greg Vanney when he said we were not ready to play?
It wasn't that I
don't know if I'd go that extreme.
He didn't say that exactly. I actually have his
or we weren't ready for the opportunity to.
We weren't ready for the opportunity to take first place. I believe that because I asked the question. You guys had a chance to play for first place. That's the big deal here, right? Is the Galaxy have had a couple chances to sort of shoot up that standings, and they haven't taken those opportunities when they've come. I think there's been 2 games where it's sort of been like, oh, well, the Galaxy could have taken points and done some things. And Greg Vanney's saying, and I don't know why, I enjoy the quote. I think it's an excellent quote saying that we weren't ready to be in first place yet. We have to earn that, and we didn't earn it, so we're not ready. And that's going to tell us something. Oh, by the way, I have a bunch of geniuses in the chat room who think that that 2% isn't enough to change things in Major League Soccer. Absolutely. A fully staffed Galaxy team is only 2% better than the Whitecaps. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. And by the way, the Whitecaps have proved that now in 2 separate games. All right, they beat the Galaxy on the road, right? And they took them and got a point at Dignity Health Sports Park. So absolutely. You can have all the high-priced talent you want. I watched the LA Galaxy with Robbie Keane and Landon Donovan and David Beckham lose games. I've seen it. I saw it over and over again, as a matter of fact, over years. They didn't lose a lot of them, but they lost games, right?
Well, it's just that opposing teams always seem to give the Galaxy their best effort.
Something like that. I also don't love that, by the way. I will say that the LA Galaxy haven't scared enough people to really be that way. And so especially not here recently.
I think when they had Zlatan Ibrahimovic, they scared a lot of people.
Somebody was asking what would happen if Zlatan Ibrahimovic was on this team, right? On this team with Greg Vanney doing the stuff that he's doing. And
this defense.
With this defense, which, by the way, Larry, you could argue this defense is not any better than the other defense with the amount of goals they've given up.
Yeah, I still like this defense more than the past couple of years. I think there's better communication. There's better talent. I happen to like it. It's just, have they been unlucky a few times? Sure. Has the Galaxy relaxed at the wrong time? Sure. But overall, I like this defense more than what they've had the last few years.
That's the correct answer. They just need time to settle, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah. Somebody American Blues says Cabral strikes fear in no one right now. Absolutely 100% true. Cabral doesn't scare anybody. True. Except for that one guy from was it from Portland who he sat down, or RSL who he sat down on his backside? That guy's scared of Kevin Cabral right now. Here's Greg Vanney after the game and sort of talking about but we weren't ready. And I just think it's one of those things that you sit there and you listen to the quote and you go, that makes sense. And there's some other parts of this that I want to get to as well. So here's Greg Vanney.
So, our team is starting to come together, so I'm pleased with where we are and what we have in front of us. It's disappointing, and I know the group is disappointed because you have an opportunity today at home to go out and jump into first place, and they've set themselves up for that opportunity, and we let it slide today, which is disappointing. But the message is maybe we weren't ready to take it today, but we need to be ready to take it the next time we get it, and we need to keep getting better and keep improving, and again, playing over 90 minutes, and the next series of games is 3 and 6 days. So it can't be that we can't bounce back in 3 and 8. We're going to have to bounce back in 3 and 6 and get points. So there you go. So a little bit, we weren't ready. Here's the crazy thing about all this. So the LA Galaxy draw this game. They go off, by the way, I know I'm a harsh critic of referees, Larry, and Baldomero Toledo is one of my least favorite in terms of guys who I watch, because I think
Toledo.
Yeah, and I just think that there's something about the way that he refs games that is unpredictable and just wasn't a thing. I was not the one who even brought it up in the press box afterwards. It was another reporter in there, and I won't mention his name so that way he can't be accused of criticizing referees out of hand either. But he said it first, and I was like, yes, I know. We all saw it. It was a horribly refed game. There were multiple yellow cards and multiple fouls. Efrain Alvarez getting wrapped up and 2 hands around the waist and not getting a call at the top of a penalty box is ridiculous. So that was something. That being said, the Galaxy still should have won that game. So you can look at it.
They should have won handily.
So after everybody was done yelling at the referee after the game, they all went into the locker room after they went over to Victoria Block and saluted everybody. And I know that was tough for them. Listen, the Galaxy took this as a loss. I know that the Galaxy took this as a loss. I know that everybody, including myself, was almost like, oh, I'm sorry you didn't win today. It was like, in my brain, I was like, this is a loss. And everybody reacted that way whenever we were talking to them. So the guys go into the locker room. Nikki K from Spectrum Sportsnet did a great job covering this because she's actually allowed down in there. And so she gets those face-to-face interviews, and she was there able to overhear a certain player who took 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes after the game to go in there and yell is a term, but I don't want you to think angry. I want you to think motivate, right? So you can yell at people to motivate them. And there was a player in there who got everybody around them, was in the locker room, and took 10 minutes to motivate that team, to talk to them about it. This player was telling the LA Galaxy that if you want to be great, then you have to believe that you can be great. And if you don't believe that you can be great, then you're not going to be great. And I know it sounds like some, fancy mumbo jumbo stuff, right?
And that's what Greg Vanney was talking about in our Zoom call a couple days ago. You have to get out of the mindset of just being good enough to be great.
So again, we talk about how this team absorbs what Greg Vanney says.
Granny?
Yeah, Greg. That's what you get when you put Greg and Vanney together. You get Granny. When Greg Vanney when I don't think he would appreciate it. But they absorb what he says. And by the way, I've purposely left this person's name out until we get to I want to explain all the things, and then I'll tell you who said it. Don't worry, it's coming. And so, there's these things that are said over and over again, and there's these mantras that go in, and there's this mental side of things that is so undervalued, especially I think in Major League Soccer, and in other areas of soccer at the higher levels. I guarantee you, there's more focus on the mental side of things, Larry. But in Major League Soccer, up to a certain point, the mental side of things I don't think has been taken care of as enough.
Wouldn't you have loved to have been a fly on the wall during that post-game diatribe? Boy.
I would have liked to be in there, boy. Not a fly on the wall. I would have been just standing in there to watch all of it. And everybody knew I was there. And recording it. And recording it, so everybody knew I could do it. But this is a team that needs to get out of its own way, right? We've seen them play flashes of good soccer. It is time that they take a step forward. And as they're getting guys back, as they're seeing guys get healthy, as Jonathan Dos Santos gets back, as Sebastian Lletget, as eventually Chicharito comes back, as they get Dejan Joveljic involved. I mean, there's going to be some bumps in the road, but these guys, let's put this, if you want to take everything and put it in a positive spin, Larry, the LA Galaxy played like crap in the second half and got a 1-1 draw.
That's
the
right.
best teams, when they play bad, can either win or draw a game. And I think that if you want to take the positive from that, and it's hard because that's an ugly game to watch. I mean, you and I were falling asleep in the press box during that second half. It was a boring game. Looking at all that stuff, but that's the positive that we can take. We talked about the win over RSL being a professional win, right? You grind it out 1-0. You get that win and you move on. This is one where you don't like to drop points at home, and it's Josh's number one rule is you don't lose games at home. They didn't lose, they drew. Greg Vanney now 66% of the time gets either a point or better with his time with the LA Galaxy. So all those things. So there's one player in there, Larry. He's yelling, he's screaming, he's begging, and he's motivating the whole time. And that player is
Josh.
Yes,
I think
yes.
you ought to ask our listeners who they think that player was.
So I saw some Sashas in there. Some people think that it's Ted Lasso, which is a good guess as well.
Or Led Tasso.
Or Led Tasso, because he was very upset. So, all those things are in there. So listen, they'll eventually get it. I've given people time to think about it. They've yelled at the thing. There's a delay in the chat room. I don't want to sit here and wait for like another 15 seconds while we guess. But that player's Chicharito. All right, this is a guy who's injured, who hasn't played in 8 games, I think.
He hasn't played since June 26th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and he missed the July 4th game, right? That was his first game that he missed, so he hasn't played since July, or since that June. He went all the way through July, all right?
He played against San Jose, that 3-1 win, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you go through all of that. It's the guy who's been injured. Now, let me give you an update again, because I see the conspiracy theories, Larry. There's people with tinfoil hats on out there thinking that Chicharito is...
We're not talking about UFOs, are we?
No, we're not. But they think that Chicharito is somehow like faking an injury or stuff like that. All right. And I think you and I have talked about this a little bit. Let's go over exactly sort of what happened. Again, we talk about the calf strain. All right. It's the same calf that he injured last year that put him out for 2 months. Okay. Greg Vanney told us that there was scar tissue that had built up in that tear. And then the scar tissue ended up creating an edema, right? Which is basically fluid building up in a cavity of some sort, either in the calf or in that scar tissue or around that scar tissue. Right. And that I believe that had to go in and actually be drained, right? They had to go in there and actually remove that fluid so that way the healing could continue. Those are all really important things. This is not just like, oh, I hurt my calf and I'm going to not be able to walk right for the next week. This is something that was, a little more serious, and it doesn't have to be where he couldn't walk on it. I mean, if you've seen him doing his workouts and stuff like, he looks like he's walking fine, but it's the ability to cut, Larry. It's the ability to backtrack. It's the ability to change direction. Yeah, exactly. Right. This is a serious thing. Now, I think we're on the tail end of it. I'm not going to say
we hope we're on the tail end of it.
Right. I'm not going to say Saturday's it. I don't know. And we haven't been able to guess that at all. And there seems to have been setbacks and a bunch of other things. But this is a guy, Larry, who has been injured, who hasn't been, who is absolutely 100% a part of this team and is in there rallying the troops as much as he can.
It's good to see. I'm sure there must have been times he's felt a little bit left out of what's been going on, having missed so many games. And I go back to what I said earlier. I don't think it was a strained calf. I think he tore a calf muscle, though the Galaxy won't say as much. But, here's a guy who's used to playing on teams or playing great soccer on teams. And maybe this was the tipping point, seeing the Galaxy struggle against let's face it, a very average Vancouver team and get nothing out of it except a point. Extremely disappointing, extremely frustrating, and maybe this is his way of trying to rally the guys, to rally the troops, and snap them out of this funk and say, hey, enough of this crap, guys. I mean, we're too good for this.
Yeah.
It was nice to see. But like I said, I would have loved to hear the recording.
it was great. I'm sure there were a bunch of not safe for work words on there, which again is really
or Sophie's swear jar.
Yes, Sophie's swear jar definitely would have been filled up there. So, Again, I think you could take a lot of things from this game. If we look at average positions and stuff like that, everything looks really good. I don't have a problem with any of these positions. Raveloson dropping back in between the two center backs between Derrick Williams and Koulibaly. I thought that was good. Jonathan
looks like a microorganism.
I think it looks like a bird. There's a tail end on one side, and then there's like a little birdie beak at the other side, and Kevin Cabral is the beak. So Cabral, as the striker, is the most forward advanced player. You like to see that. Sebastian Lletget getting into that. Jonathan Dos Santos being a little bit more advanced than Lletget, or a little bit less advanced than Lletget, right behind Efrain Alvarez. Alvarez, I will say, cutting inside a lot, which is expected from him because he's more of a central player anyway. So that's why eventually he may go to the bench, is that he pulls himself into the center, where if you have Grandsir and you have Cabral, they're going to stay more on the outside. Although on this one, Grandsir is inverted, but remember, he switched sides in the second half, so they take his average position, which is more to one side or the other than that. So that's sort of where you sit with the LA Galaxy's average position. I have no problems with the expected goals, 1.6 to 1.6. That sounds like a draw to me, Larry. Whenever they're both there. So none of that surprised me. So, I mean, really the stats are unsurprising in any way. The result is surprising just because you'd expect the LA Galaxy to want to have that revenge. I got to go on Vancouver radio for their pregame show, and they were talking about, what's the Achilles heel of this LA Galaxy team? And I'm like, it's been staying healthy, and it's been, sort of staying into these games in the second half. This you want to know why Vancouver has the LA Galaxy's number, Larry? I think I figured it out. The LA Galaxy are a good first half team, but aren't a great second half team yet. And the Vancouver Whitecaps are probably the best second half team in Major League Soccer. And so, it was funny because whenever they scored in the second half, I was watching some of the Whitecaps accounts and stuff like that. And they're like clockwork on in the second half. Mark Dos Santos makes incredible adjustments, knows what to do. Derrick Williams talked about players popping up in different pockets whenever they came in the second half. And it took the LA Galaxy a while to figure out where they were coming from and how they were to handle that. That has to be better.
I would have loved to figure out just how many second half goals Vancouver scored this season. It might be eye-opening. It really might, but I'm not going to take the time to do it. I mean, it's Vancouver. I don't care.
I think they might be a team that has not scored in the first half this year. It's one of those. It's like that ridiculous. It's that skewed. So anyway, we look at that. We have a question saying, does Dion Does Joveljic?
And not to be confused with the 1950 singer either, just Dion.
Okay, just Dion.
I'm aging myself badly with these remarks. I'm sorry.
It's okay. There's at least one or two of our listeners who are your age that I'm sure enjoy it and laugh and cackle and just have a They would write to us, but they don't know how to use email. So I'm sure.
Well, let's face it. I mean, I am old, so gosh.
Yeah, but we still like you, Larry. Larry. By the way, I was very surprised in the anthem with your anthem comment this weekend.
It was pretty good.
You said it was pretty good. You said
it wasn't. It wasn't the unnecessary trilling that I've grown accustomed to with so many performances. This one was okay. This one was acceptable.
Anyway, I just thought it was fun.
I'm still waiting for you to do the anthem, Josh.
I do it all the time in my shower every morning.
Okay.
So that's where we sit on that. So anyway, Joveljic doesn't have his visa yet. At least they haven't notified us that. The LA Galaxy schedule says that we have a media call on Thursday, which is good because we have a live show on Thursday night. The Hammer should be there for that one, and we should know then whether or not Dayon has his visa yet. So we'll be able to pay attention to that as we go.
Although if the track record means anything with the Galaxy this season, they'll probably have to wait about 2 months.
I was going to say, Vanney is adamant that that's not going to happen this time. All right, he told us. All right, he wants that. He wants it back.
He's hoping and praying it won't happen.
All right. So if we look at points per month and sort of where the LA Galaxy stand, July had 6 games and they averaged 1.17 games. 1.17 points per game in that month. You can't have a repeat of that, but there were 3 games that were on the road in that one as well. So, sort of keep that in mind. The majority of the games were on the road in July. The majority of the games are at home in August. So the LA Galaxy currently undefeated in the month. They're undefeated in 3 games, which is their longest, I think, undefeated streak this year, Larry. Is that correct?
It looks like, yes.
I think it is because I kept looking and saying, this could have been the...
They're 2-0-1 the last 3. I'm looking at this chart. It looks like you are correct.
Okay, good. I was guessing, and I'm also pulling up the form guide on my phone just so I can double check it as well. But yeah, so undefeated in 3, longest undefeated streak, so that's okay. The 2.0 points per game in August is good. You want to keep it there with 2 away games, one of those coming up on Saturday against Minnesota. You're going to want to pay attention to that one. The LA Galaxy are underdogs in this game. No doubt about it. Whenever they go to Minnesota, it's going to be a very, very tough game. So
the Loons are going to be tough. Yes, they are.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. We'll preview that game on Thursday for you.
And I hate to say it, but the Galaxy might be loony after this upcoming game. Who knows?
They very well could be
after this trip. Yes.
put in their place. But this is a crazy, stupid little trip that we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yeah.
So if we look at goal projections right now through 18 games, the LA Galaxy on pace to score 54.8 goals, but to give up nearly 53 goals, so that's not great. We'll go right past that one and keep on going, just so we can sort of keep an eye on the LA Galaxy goals scored. 29 and 28, goal differential +1 right now. If you look at previous seasons and sort of where they've sat, if we said, in that 53 range, to score goals is actually pretty high in terms of goals you can score. So 55 goals that they're on pace to score is not a bad pace, but 53 is a lot whenever you sort of compare those different ones. Points per game overall, LA Galaxy averaging 1.78 points per game in 2021. Their average across all their seasons is 1.52. And if you look at some of those MLS Cup winning seasons there, Larry, in the 1.79 range, in the almost 2 range in 2011, in 1.6 range in 2012. So at 1.78 right now, the LA Galaxy actually probably fitting into a good sort of spot. And then I wanted to get I updated my chart that I normally have that has all the wonderful colors. I changed the colors, and the reason I changed them is we actually color coded them. This was a suggestion from one of our Discord users, is that all of the years where the LA Galaxy made the playoffs are in blue. All the years the LA Galaxy missed the playoffs are in gray, and all of the years the LA Galaxy won MLS Cups are in yellow. So you can sort of keep a better idea of exactly where all those are. At 32 points through 18 games, the LA Galaxy are off to their second best or third best, depending on how you sort of want to couch it, third best start since 2010. Yeah, since 2010. Which is sort of the modern era.
It looks like the all-timer best was in, 1998?
1998, 43 points, but that was no shootout. Or that was with the shootout. So with the shootout. Yeah, you kind of got to throw that out a little bit. But, whenever you look at the LA Galaxy not making the playoffs, there was that first little spurt in 2006 through 2008. And then it was okay under Bruce Arena through 2009, that type of thing. And then you go in and you start 2017, missed the playoffs. 2018, missed the playoffs. 2019, made the playoffs. 2020, missed the playoffs. And so far, we don't know where the LA Galaxy are going to be pulling up there. But it looks right now, at least, like they are destined for the playoffs. And if you look at their 62 points, Larry, remember they wanted 31 points at the midway point, which would mean that if they predicted that out, it would be 62 points total. The 62 points, I believe, and I looked this up earlier today, would be the second or third best season ever for an LA Galaxy team.
Now, can they duplicate that 31-point first half in the second half of the season? What do you think?
I mean, there's a chart here that we can get to that I think
if everybody is healthy, I think they have a shot. But boy, that's asking a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But I will tell you, you talked about being lucky or unlucky this year. Somebody does have the unlucky versus lucky versus good versus bad chart that got put out today.
There you go.
I believe this was from, and let me get the play.
Yeah, I was going to say, where'd you find this? Yeah,
it's on Twitter. Everything's on Twitter. Okay. This is from Elliot McKinley. He posted this on Twitter. I don't know where he got the chart, if it was somebody else, but he posted it, wanted to sort of show it. Now, before you freak out, right? The LA Galaxy are one of the quote luckiest teams, and if you look at good and lucky on this chart, right? It's one of these 4 quadrant charts, right? If you look at one of these charts, like good and lucky would be the New England Revolution. They're good and they've been lucky, right? Yep. Lucky and unlucky is a misnomer for this, okay? All this is showing you is whether or not you're over or underperforming your expected points. All right, and expected points is like expected goals. They project it out and they take a look at it, okay? The LA Galaxy, and the reason that they are quote-unquote lucky right now is because they are outperforming their expected points by almost 10. All right, the LA Galaxy have 32 points, and if you look at their expected points and what American Soccer Analysis Now, I forget the exact website. I'm sorry, I had it on here at one point. But when they looked it out and they projected out the expected points, Larry, they expected the LA Galaxy to have just shy of 23 points, 22.95 points. And the LA Galaxy currently have 32 points. So that's
10 points is a lot when you think of it. It is a lot.
So that means, so don't think of this as lucky or unlucky. It is the LA Galaxy outperforming what they were expected to have, okay? Which is a good thing. Now, the problem with this is that in analytics and looking at this, you would expect that there is a regression in this back towards the average. But that doesn't mean anything, all right? I think the year Liverpool won the English Premier League, they were very high on the lucky scale, and you need to be high on the lucky scale to win championships too. But good and lucky, and then good and unlucky, like LAFC right now apparently is a good and unlucky team. So is New York City, even though New York City is one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. You can certainly look at that. I don't know if anybody watched that San Jose game against LAFC, but I don't think you could ever say that they were unlucky in that game.
They're just outplayed.
And they weren't good either. So, it's one of those things that's over the course and looking at the different charts on where it is. So don't be discouraged by this chart because lots of people are out there, oh, the LA Galaxy are just lucky. They're not good. Listen, they're also right on the borderline of bad and good, which means they're like a little bit a below quote-unquote average team in terms of bad and good, and they're more on the lucky side than the unlucky side. Take the lucky side, ride it all the way to a championship. That's what I say.
Do you think New England is the best team in the league right now?
Yes and no.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, Seattle, Sporting, Kansas City, boy, I'll tell you, I mean, the West is loaded, in my opinion, much, much stronger than the East.
I agree. I agree 100%. I agree
Yeah.
100% with that. But
and don't forget about Colorado either. Oh boy, they're just sneaky good.
Well, let's get to my favorite MLS Power Rankings that actually use like real factors instead of just magic and wishing, like so often is the case on the MLS website. Right now, they have the LA Galaxy at 7. This is Ben Wright's at Ben Wright on Twitter. He puts this out, and they have the LA Galaxy at 7, slightly under the Colorado Rapids. Nashville is at 5, Seattle's at 4, New England is at 3. So, Larry, there's the argument that New England is not the best team in the league right now. New York City at 2, and Sporting Kansas City at 1. So, SKC is still the best quote-unquote team in Ben Wright's power rankings, and again, backed up by data and all that sort of stuff. So, this is whenever you look at these power rankings, it says the LA Galaxy are 7. I think that you're going to have to watch Colorado and the Galaxy play in order to figure out who's the better team is. And as of right now, I don't know that we know the answer to that.
I think you're right. And that's going to be one serious game to watch. It really will be. I mean, and it's like I said, the Rapids just flying under the radar. Nobody is paying attention to them, and those are the kind of teams that just scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, Robin Fraser is a good coach, FYI, and I think they put together a decent MLS side. And we talk about that 2% being the difference, right? Colorado has the ability to find that 2% and beat teams, so you can't take them lightly. And they will be the LA Galaxy's only Tuesday game. All right, the Galaxy play one Tuesday game. It is coming up. The Galaxy play Saturday, and then Tuesday, and then Friday. All right. Yes.
Wow.
And so let's get this has been all over and certainly attendance and scheduling has been at the forefront of everything that has been going on today on Twitter. And I'm kind of in the I don't want to talk about it anymore, but also I've been arguing about it all day, so I might as well have a one-sided argument on this where I get to just talk and everybody else has to listen. Larry, you're obviously invited on part of the talking part, but
okay.
We listen. This has been going on.
Thank you for that privilege, by the way.
You're welcome. This has been going on for a while, Larry, and we have seen this. And if you haven't been paying attention, I don't know where you've been, but scheduling has been interesting. I guess that's really too nice. Scheduling has been crap in terms of getting people in seats, right? Now, there are two things that you have to take into account for scheduling. One is nationally televised games and how they don't care if there's anybody in the seats, so they will play those games at any time on any day.
The game against the Loons, the upcoming game against the Loons is on Fox, right?
That game is against Fox, but it's on a Saturday,
Fox.
and it's at
on
3.
Saturday. Okay,
It's in the sweet spot. Technically speaking, it's in the sweet spot. Even if that game was played in LA at 8 or at 5, let's see, no, at 6. Then it would still be one of those games where you're like, okay, 6 o'clock on a Saturday is a primetime game, and it would be on Fox, that type of thing. It's at 3 p.m. Because it's being played, I think, at 6 in Minnesota. Is Minnesota Eastern time, or are they Central?
Central.
Are they Central? Okay, anyway, it
Yes.
doesn't matter. It's 3 o'clock Pacific time. We don't need to get crazy.
So it's 4 o'clock their time. Okay.
Yeah. So when we look at, you know, the schedules and the things that are going on, that national televised game schedule is the absolute number one thing that will screw up a schedule. 100%. That is, if you're looking at any culprit right now, it is the national television schedule, because everybody knows that the prime time for an LA Galaxy game, Larry, is to play at 7 or 7:30 on a Saturday night, and you will get the most people that you can get, right? Do you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Anything outside of that, earlier in the day, if you go into Sundays, that slacks some things off too, even earlier in the day. If you play on Friday, on a Friday night, that affects things. If you play a Friday night in Southern California is not a Friday night anywhere else. If you have to travel to go somewhere, a Friday night in Southern California is a weekday game. You might as well be playing it on Wednesday, because you still have to deal with traffic, and traffic is worse on a Friday.
Are there still restrictions from Cal State Dominguez Hills as to how many games the Galaxy can play during the week, or what time the kickoff can be? I know there used to be, but I'm
there
not
used
sure
to be.
if still
They
are.
don't have them anymore, and I don't know if it was because the Galaxy didn't brush up against them, Larry, or if they just don't have them. Okay, so there's nobody worries about those restrictions anymore. But when you play is important. Now, at the beginning of this season, and some of these may have changed a little bit. They changed some times and they did some different things and that type of thing. But overall, at the beginning of the season, I laid out where the LA Galaxy's games would come from. And if you're looking at it, weekday, Monday through Friday, there's 12 games. If it's a weekday, if there's a weekend, you had 22 games overall that were on a weekend, right? Midweek games, basically the I think I termed midweek as Wednesday or Thursday. There's 9 of those games. All right, and then I broke it down by days of the week as well. You can see there's one game on Monday, which will be against Seattle in the second to last game of the year up in Seattle. Then there's one Tuesday game, which we talked about, is coming up on Colorado this next week, not Saturday, then Tuesday, then Friday. There's only 2 Friday games that are there as well. So you look at that. No Thursday games in any of these, but 14 on Sunday and 14 on Saturday and 8 on Sunday. So most of the time, you will see the LA Galaxy play on the weekend. But that being said, Larry, if you look at from this point on, right now as we are here, there is only one Saturday 7:30 p.m. game for the rest of the season from right here.
Just one?
Just one.
Wow. And who's that?
I believe it is against Portland, and the game is on Spectrum, right? So it's not a nationally televised game. All right.
One Saturday game left in schedule. That's hard to believe.
Yes, that's it. So now there are some other Saturday games. They're just not at 7:30, right? There's one, I think, that's at like 12:30. I actually brought the schedule up so I could read it and really take a look at this. But you have to understand, those national televised games, like, okay, so there's a game at 3 p.m. This one's on Fox coming up on Saturday. Spectrum has the Tuesday game. You were asking, though, why are the Galaxy playing on Tuesday, Larry? Because that's what you should be asking. Why aren't they playing on Wednesday? They played on
Josh,
Saturday?
why are they playing on Tuesday?
Because of a nationally televised game on Friday. They wanted LA Galaxy versus San Jose. ESPN wanted the game, and if ESPN wants the game, they don't want to go up on a Saturday. A lot of times they either go on Sundays or Fridays, right? Well, in this particular case, LA Galaxy, San Jose, ESPN, or ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, that game is on a Friday, and that game is at 7:30 p.m., and that is why there's a Tuesday game, because of the Friday game. Okay.
Don't you love the way TV controls everything?
But, I mean, if you were getting more money from the television side of things than you are from people sitting in seats, and even a packed stadium for an LA Galaxy game doesn't necessarily mean that you get equal the amount of money that your television deals are doing. You cater to where you're getting more money, and the league thinks that getting more money from the television side of things is where that needs to happen. So they don't care when we start games, and that's stupid. All right, I'm telling you right now, because it looks bad. All right, if you're going to play a game at 12:30 p.m. on a Saturday, Larry, you're not going to have the same crowd as if you had it at 8 p.m. on a Friday or 7:30 p.m. on that Saturday. Those things matter. But when you cater to the television, especially in Southern California, you get empty seats. That's what you get. And you can see that. Now I gave you your assignment, right?
Under threats of dismemberment, I must point out.
Absolutely, I threatened you. I said, could you please look it up? Look at the LA Galaxy's average attendance. Now, give me the average attendance with the COVID restrictions first.
Okay, with the COVID restrictions, those had to do with the first 4 matches. But overall, they are averaging, including the COVID restrictions, 13,903 per game.
Which is a low number. And so anybody who
number.
includes the COVID restricted sort of things doesn't really look at where they're going. So if you go now and take those COVID restricted games out. Now, were there 6 games?
Six games.
Six home games.
Starting June 19th against Seattle.
Yep.
The last 6 games, they have averaged 18,433.
And the largest...
the 2 largest crowds were 23,165 against Seattle on June 19th and 23,556 on July 4th against Sporting Kansas City. The low in the last 6 matches was 15,544 versus Real Salt Lake. And, of course, that was a Wednesday match.
It was a Wednesday match. But then there was a Friday match against Portland, right? And the numbers were almost the same, were they not?
Right. 15,644, 100 more fans. I don't know where they squeezed them in, but 100 more.
100 more. Okay. I think I got a lot of crap on Twitter because whenever I tweeted out the
people disagreed with you.
Big surprise. There's a whole bunch of people who think they want to be keyboard warriors with some of this stuff. I'm going to tell you, none of this is easy. None of this is like just simple, and you can't just sit there and say, oh yeah, this is exactly the reason why all this is happening. There's multiple reasons that stuff is happening with the LA Galaxy right now in attendance. One of them is that whenever I listen to those numbers, even your best numbers, the 23s, I sit there and go, so that's 2,000 or 3,000 short of where it should be normally, right? So we have to take into account the pandemic. Some people don't want to come back yet. Totally understand. With Delta out there, you need to be as safe as you want to be. And so, I wear my mask a lot whenever I go to games down on the concourse and up in the press box.
It's got to be a habit. It's got to be a habit now.
Yeah, and so you look, and somebody was asking, how did these stats look compared to other teams? From the accounts that I've seen that I've been following, the LA Galaxy have seen a larger dip in their attendance than some of the other teams. All right, so keep that in mind as you go. Now, we talk about the pandemic. That's one thing that certainly could be it. We talk about scheduling. Absolutely affects the LA Galaxy. Always has since I've been covering the team since 2009. All right, the day of the week and the time absolutely affects. I can usually guess where the attendance is going to be based on what time and what day it's played. I'll tell you right now, 2,000 to 3,000 short of where I expect in most of these. I feel like everything's 2,000 to 3,000 short on all of these. I will tell you, the bad run of play the LA Galaxy have had over the last 4 years absolutely has hurt season ticket sales.
No doubt.
While the LA Galaxy will not release season ticket sales, they won't tell us how many. You can beg, you can plead, you can guess, you can do all that stuff. At one point, I think they were saying it was about 9,500. Personally, never believed that number. Always felt that at their peak, they were closer to 85, maybe 9. But I would say that now, if they're in the 72 to 68 range, that's what it feels like to me, just based upon where I see everybody there. There's a couple things. Pandemic certainly hits that. Bad play certainly hits that. The LA Galaxy.
I think the quality of competition too. I mean, we're talking about games with Vancouver, games with Dallas,
which apparently
Lake,
apparently the Galaxy can't win sometimes as well.
Right.
So. I mean, there's that type of thing. I also will say, look at the season ticket department with the LA Galaxy. The season ticket reps have been decimated. Most of those people work on straight up commission, and they haven't been playing games and selling tickets, so they lost a lot of those people. Those people are gone. I'll say this as well. As an LA Galaxy person who is in charge of like marketing and things like that, how do you even predict what your marketing budget is going to be during a pandemic when you don't know where to sort of sink your money into and a whole bunch of other things that go into that? How do you even... usually these budgets are made at the beginning of the year. They're made at the beginning of the year, and then that's all the money you have for the entire year. That's your budget for the whole thing. Well, how do you project that out for a pandemic year?
I think one other factor we forgot to mention in this, it might be minor, I'm not sure. I wonder how the absence of a certain Mexican international has affected the attendance figures as well. I would imagine it's probably more noticeable than we would admit to.
I think that whenever you're a team like the LA Galaxy who does not rely on season tickets, and this has always been one of I've seen people get fired. Tom Payne, who was president of the LA Galaxy at one point, got fired because of season ticket numbers. All right. So this is a big deal. And the season ticket numbers for the LA Galaxy have always been low. They should have always been higher. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could sort of come in that. So again, these are all the things that are sort of factoring into what I would say is a 2,000 to 3,000 people lower numbers than where they really should be. A Wednesday night should be around anywhere between 15 and 17. They got 15, so they were sort of in there, but it should be closer to 17. A Friday night should be closer to 19 and 20, and instead it's at 15. A Sunday afternoon game, even against Vancouver, should be in the 21s or 22s, not in the 15, 16s, right? Like in that number. So, a Saturday night game or a July 4th game is a sellout. It wasn't a sellout. All those things. Again, I understand pandemic. I understand all the factors, but I want to make sure everybody understands those are all factors in this, and it's not just one thing. Everybody wants to blame it on one thing. The complaints this week have been warranted. People complaining about the food. People complaining that somehow the bacon-wrapped hot dog vendors have apparently been kicked out of the parking lot. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I know a lot of people who enjoy those bacon-wrapped hot dogs from people who are just trying to do a good job and sell bacon-wrapped hot dogs after the game. However that happens, I don't see what the big deal is with that. I'm sure people will disagree with me. That's fine as well. The other complaints coming out of this game as well were the roundup at the end of the night. Now, you and I don't leave right whenever the game is over, so we don't get stuck in traffic. We're usually on press calls and writing and doing stuff like that before we head out of the stadium. So usually whenever I get to my car is sitting there all by itself in the middle of the parking lot, and then I get to drive off and there's nobody around. But we do see from the press box that the police have been rounding everybody up and getting them moving, right? Now, over the last couple games, I think there has been an increased police presence, and there was an incident on the Friday night against the Portland Timbers that caused somebody to get hurt and actually go to the hospital. There was a clash between two fan groups, not supporters groups, but between some Galaxy fans and some Portland fans, and somebody got hurt and ended up having to go to the hospital. I understand that as well. But there's something that's unnerving, and certainly I saw the videos and I saw the pictures of stuff, Larry, where you have, I don't know, what looked like 14 or 15 police cars with lights and sirens on going around and trying to get Galaxy fans out of the parking lot for some reason.
The last two games I walked out to my car, there have been police cars all over the place, sirens blaring. And when it first happened, I said, was there a shooting or some kind of incident in the parking lot? And just this added police presence, just like you said, it's quite unnerving. I mean, they just want to clear that parking lot as quickly as they possibly can, and I can understand people being upset. But I have a feeling we better get used to it.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know where. I understand the need for the police in the parking lots. I just don't understand the tactics being used, so I think something has to be looked at. I think something has to be looked at the food inside. I saw lots of people complaining about the food quality inside, and there were some pictures of some pizzas that looked like they were horrible. I don't know why you would
stick with the pretzels. I'm telling you, stick with the pretzels.
Not everybody can just eat a pretzel, And by the way, it should be better than that, Larry. Right? It should be better than that. And so I would like to see the LA Galaxy do something about that. Now, I understand during a pandemic and trying to get the food vendors back and trying to get like the standalone food vendors that are sort of like, the ones that come from outside and do stuff in, that's harder to do. They're going to get a little bit of a pass still for me, but things have to happen. So you're looking at that. And then there's a lot of complaints, again, about scheduling with San Diego State University. Now, the Aztecs are playing their football games at Dignity Health Sports Park this year and possibly even next year as their new stadium is being built where the old, what was it, Joe Robbie Stadium? Is that the correct? What was
Jack Murphy
Qualcomm
Stadium?
Yeah, Jack Murphy. It was Jack Murphy. Qualcomm.
Jack Murphy.
Yeah. Qualcomm.
Yeah.
So with Qualcomm Stadium, that thing got knocked down. They're building a new football stadium there down in San Diego where San Diego State will play and possibly a San Diego MLS team as well. That is that's one of those things that you have to look at. So they're going to be playing. Now, people have said, and I think it's incorrect because I actually looked at the schedule. People have said that the LA Galaxy don't have any Saturday games because of San Diego State playing. And I can see no evidence of that. There's a couple San Diego State games where they play at Saturday night at Dignity Health Sports Park and the LA Galaxy are away. So that could be evidence that they offset the schedules. But there is no game that I see of where the LA Galaxy are playing on a Sunday because San Diego State is playing on a Saturday, right? And so however they moved the schedule around, there are plenty of Saturdays that go unused for Major League Soccer. There was one, there's a Sunday game somewhere for the LA Galaxy where there's no San Diego State game that weekend. And so the Galaxy could have played on the Saturday, but instead they're playing on a Sunday. Why? Because of national television. All right. And then you're looking at this stuff. I understand being upset about it, but ultimately the LA Galaxy making that deal gets money into AEG and gets money back into that stadium and allows things to happen. That's not it. All right. It's the national television. It's the scheduling for the league that seems to have done this stuff. It is not the San Diego State University causing any sort of problems. So that's not it.
The bottom line of this, we talked about this before the show, just for Galaxy fans, just be thankful that we're talking about the Aztec soccer team and not the Chargers football team and the Chargers' potential for chewing up that field. The Galaxy got very lucky with the Chargers hosting having their home games there.
Don't say lucky though, Larry. Don't say lucky because they did a great job with that field.
But we never had these serious rainstorms, and the Chargers would play the following day and just chew it to shreds. It never happened. The Galaxy got very, very fortunate.
Yeah,
that didn't happen.
All right. No, that's good. I know people are complaining about season tickets as well. There was a season ticket hike. I think the Galaxy are doing that, looking at next season and what next season is going to be and how they expect the team to be. Listen, there was always going to be a hike. I can't tell you if it's justified for you or not. They haven't given me all the numbers, so the 17% is probably a little strong for some people, but that's a pretty good raise, 17%. There is. So I mean, everybody has, everybody's like, well, I'm not going to renew. I am 100% supportive of anybody voting with their wallet. 100%. If you feel like the LA Galaxy haven't earned it, then do not give them your season tickets. Right? I mean, that's pretty easy, right? You get to vote with your wallet in many different ways. And you can still go to Galaxy games because you can still find tickets on the side. That may change as things get quote unquote back to normal. But in this right now, I don't know that you're overly concerned about that thing. So, you have to make the LA Galaxy earn your season ticket members. And with the way that they played over the last 4 years, and maybe with prices, maybe that doesn't make sense for you. I'm 100% behind you if you decide that that's not the way that you want to go. Right, Larry? You get to vote with your wallet all the time.
Sure.
Right. Well, I mean, except for you, who watches the Cleveland Browns regardless of how bad they are. And so, I don't think they're learning any lessons, Larry.
No. And I struggle to watch the Indians and Cavaliers too. Oh boy. I mean, my roots with my Cleveland teams go way back. But I can understand where it might get too expensive for people to renew their season seats. But if you're a true Galaxy fan, I don't think there's any question that you renew your tickets.
I mean,
it's still a pretty good bargain. It really is.
Do you think so? Because I think there's argument that you cannot resell.
$20 for parking is steep. I will say that.
Well, that's just a loss. You don't get any benefit out of that. But I will say this. I will say that there is a good argument that you can buy tickets off the secondary market right now, and you can see pretty much any game you want outside of the LAFC games. Whenever they come to town, but you can see pretty much any game you want, and you can pay less than what most season tickets are for. If you want to work that hard, you could probably do that. So anyway,
okay.
I'm just that's my argument.
But if I had a chance to get season seats, I'd get season seats. I would.
They'll kick you out
as
of the
long
press
as I
box
don't have to pay
eventually.
a personal seat license like I have to do in the National Football League. Season seats.
Okay.
I'd go for season seats.
All right. Larry has the vote. I'm perfectly okay with that. LA Galaxy schedule. Team was off on Monday. Today as we're recording. Training on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then they will travel to Minnesota on Friday to play their Saturday night game against Minnesota United. It's
going to be a tough one.
Allianz Field. It absolutely is. So we'll see where that goes. Real quickly, in terms of standings, we talked about New England being at 40 points over there on the eastern side. Orlando's 10 points behind them in second place. That's quite a gap. Bruce Arena and the New England Revolution have opened up over there at 2.11 points per game. You come over to the Western Conference, the best team, Sporting Kansas City with 34 points. Galaxy could have been up there. They would have beat Vancouver, but they didn't. They would have been the number one team in the Western Conference as well because they would have beat the Kansas City. I was going to say Kansas City Wizards there for a second. Wow.
I'd much rather be third in the West than third last in the West.
Absolutely. It is. Yep. They are in a good spot, but everybody really realizes they lost some points there. LA Galaxy remain in fourth place in the Supporters Shield. So third place in the Western Conference, fourth place in the Supporters Shield. That has stayed relatively strong. All right. Anything else that you want to get to, Larry, or can we call it a night?
No, sir. I think we can call it a night. Again, thank you for letting me sit in for Mr. Baxter these last 2 weeks. I'm sure people will look forward to hearing Kevin wax poetically again starting next Monday.
Yeah, he's going to be talking a lot about Tokyo and the Olympics and his 7-Eleven time, so we'll see how that goes. All right.
Yeah, just to call him Sensei.
If you're looking for Mr. Larry Morgan, you won't find him on Twitter. That's not where he's at, but he is over at cornerofthegalaxy.com, so you can find all of his writing. He has a great article with a little Derrick Williams angle there. You'll enjoy it. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. All right, looking for me on Twitter at jguesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Please head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Post-game video is up there. We got articles, we got recaps, we got all that fun stuff is ready for you. We have this podcast there too, so go listen to all of them and subscribe and like. All right, that does it for us tonight. For Larry Morgan, not on Twitter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening, you've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box. cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.